Step back right now, or you'll regret it. Four grown men paused mid-kick and snapped their heads toward the mouth of the alley. What they found standing there made them erupt into the kind of cruel laughter that bounces off crumbling brick. A small black girl stood in the dim glow of a flickering streetlight. Maybe 10 years old, drowning in a faded red hoodie 3 sizes too big, gripping nothing but a scuffed-up baseball. Her braids were half undone. Her sneakers had holes in the toes. She couldn't have been more than 65 pounds, dripping wet. But her stance, feet planted wide like she owned the concrete beneath them, and her eyes, burning with something these men had never encountered before. Not fear, fury. The tallest one, a wiry man with snake tattoos crawling up his neck, doubled over, cackling. "Yo, whose little sister is this?" The second attacker, stocky with a gold tooth that glinted when he smiled, wiped mock tears from his face. "Baby girl thinks she's in a Marvel movie or something." The third one, a mountain of a man, shoulders like cinder blocks, took 4 slow steps toward her, still grinning like this was the funniest thing he'd seen all month. "Little mama, you better turn around and skip back to wherever you came from before you end up on the ground next to this clown." He drove his boot into the ribs of the man crumpled at his feet. Hard. The sound echoed wet and wrong. That man was Landon Cross, real estate mogul, venture capitalist, the kind of man who bought buildings the way normal people bought coffee. His net worth had more zeros than most people would see in a lifetime. Right now, though, he was choking on his own blood in a puddle of trash and broken glass, and a 5th grader was the only thing standing between him and a shallow grave. The girl, her name was Zara, shifted her weight, cocked her arm back like a major league closer in the 9th inning. "Final warning," she said, her voice sharp as shattered glass. "Walk away." They laughed harder. Worst mistake they ever made. Welcome to the Cool Stories family. If this is your first time here, smash that subscribe button right now because what you're about to witness will leave you speechless. To my day ones, my loyal crew who's been rocking with me since the beginning. I see you. I appreciate you. Thank you for showing up every single time. Before we dive in, let me speak life over you real quick. Lord, I'm asking you right now to cover every single person watching this. Bless their family, their health, their finances, their peace of mind. Give them strength when they're weak, hope when they're lost, and breakthroughs they've been praying for. Let favor follow them today. Amen. Now let's get into it. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story about a girl saving a stranger's life. It's a story about justice delayed but not denied. It's about what happens when the very man who destroyed your family ends up bleeding at your feet, and you have to choose between revenge and redemption. It's about secrets buried so deep they took 12 years to surface, and it's about one throw that changes 2 lives forever. But here's what nobody knew that night. Here's what Zara herself didn't know as she stood in that alley with her arm cocked back, ready to throw. The man dying at her feet wasn't her enemy. He was just another victim. And the real monster? The one who destroyed her family, killed her father, and spent 12 years pretending to be a hero? He was sitting 3 blocks away in his construction office, watching security camera footage of that alley, smiling, because everything, the attack, the beating, Zara's presence there, all of it was part of a plan that started 12 years ago with a fire that wasn't an accident. Zara released the throw. The ball cut through the night air like a missile. Crack. It slammed into the biggest attacker's temple so hard the sound echoed off the alley walls like a gunshot. Blood sprayed across the brick in an arc that caught the moonlight. The man's knees buckled. The sound of his skull hitting concrete rang out like a judge's gavel. He dropped. 1 second standing, the next second flat on his back, groaning, hands clutching his split-open head. The other 3 froze. And in that moment of stunned silence, windows started lighting up all down the block. Yellow squares of life appearing in the darkness. Voices shouting. Doors opening. Witnesses. The second attacker spun around, eyes wild. "What the? Who threw that? Zara was already reaching into her hoodie pocket for her backup ball. Zara's second throw was faster than the first. The old tennis ball she kept in her left pocket, the one with the faded yellow fuzz and the permanent grass stain, flew from her hand before the men could even process what was happening. Thwack! Caught the second attacker right in the back of his skull. His gold tooth flashed as his mouth flew open in shock. He stumbled forward, hands flying to his head, cursing words that would have gotten Zara's mouth washed out with soap. "Somebody's throwing stuff at us," he screamed, spinning in circles like a confused dog trying to catch its tail. But Zara had already ducked back into the shadows. The alley that had been dark and empty 30 seconds ago was transforming. Light after light clicked on. First the building directly across, Miss Rita's apartment, 3rd floor. Then Mr. Chen's corner store. Then the Johnsons' place. Then more and more. Within seconds, the entire block was awake. "What's going on down there?" someone shouted from a window. "Is that blood?" another voice called out. "Somebody call 911. The third attacker, the one with the snake tattoos, grabbed his friend who was still on the ground. "Yo, we gotta bounce. Now." The big one staggered to his feet, blood streaming down the side of his face, mixing with the rain that had started to fall. Light drizzle, but enough to make everything shimmer and blur. Where'd that come from? Where's the kid? But Zara wasn't a kid anymore in that moment. She was something else entirely. She was her father's daughter. The men looked at each other, looked at the growing crowd, looked at the man bleeding on the ground. Then they ran, fast, stumbling over trash bags and broken pallets, disappearing into the maze of alleys that crisscrossed the south side like veins. Gone. Just like that. Zara stood at the alley entrance, breathing hard, her heart hammering so loud she could hear it in her ears. Her hands were shaking now. The adrenaline that had kept them steady during the throw was draining away, replaced by something that felt like ice water in her veins. What did I just do? She looked down at the man on the ground. He still wasn't moving. Not really. Just this awful wet breathing sound, like drowning on dry land. "No, no, no," Zara whispered to herself. "Don't be dead. Please don't be dead." She needed to see if he was okay. She needed to get closer. But her feet wouldn't move. Because now, with the streetlight hitting his face at just the right angle, she could see him clearly for the first time. Really see him. The expensive suit, even torn and covered in blood, she could tell it cost more than her grandmother's monthly rent. The watch on his wrist, the crystal was cracked, but the gold gleamed. The briefcase lying open near his head, papers scattered everywhere, $100 bills mixed in with the trash. Rich. This man was rich. And his face. God, his face. Zara's breath caught in her throat like a fishhook. She'd seen that face before, not in person, never in person, but in the photographs her mother kept in a shoebox under the bed, the one Zara wasn't supposed to look at but did anyway when grandmother was at work and the apartment was too quiet and the memories were too loud. The man from the courthouse steps, the man in the newspaper clipping with the headline, "Developer acquitted in deadly apartment fire." The man her mother had pointed to when Zara was 7 years old, tears streaming down her face, and said, "This is the man who killed your father, baby. This is the man who took everything from us. Don't you ever forget his face." Landon Cross. Zara's entire world tilted sideways. The man she just saved, the man whose life she'd just thrown 2 baseballs to protect, was the same man who'd destroyed her family 12 years ago. The man who'd set the fire that killed her father. The man who'd walked free while her mother cried herself to sleep every night for 3 years. The man who was supposed to pay for what he did. And she'd just saved his life. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Red and blue lights started painting the wet brick walls. Zara looked down at her empty hands, then at Landon Cross, still bleeding, still dying. And she had to make a choice right there, right then. That would change everything. Run or stay. Zara's feet moved before her brain caught up. She ran toward him. Not away. Toward. Every instinct screaming at her to leave, to disappear into the shadows before the police arrived, before anyone asked questions she didn't want to answer. But something stronger pulled her forward. Something her grandmother's voice couldn't silence. Something louder than 12 years of hatred. Her father's voice. We don't become them, baby girl. No matter what they do to us, we don't become them. She dropped to her knees beside Landon Cross, glass crunching under her weight. Up close, he looked worse. So much worse. His nose was shattered, bent at an angle that made Zara's stomach turn. Blood poured from a gash above his eye, mixing with the rain, running in dark rivers down his face. His breathing was shallow, desperate, like trying to suck air through a straw. "Hey," Zara whispered, her voice shaking. "Hey, can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open, just barely, unfocused at first, then slowly finding her face. For 3 long seconds they just stared at each other. The man who destroyed everything. The girl who saved him anyway. "You." His voice came out as barely more than a rasp, thick with blood. "I know you." Zara's heart stopped. He recognized her. But how? They'd never met. Never been in the same room. She was 3 years old when the fire happened, and her mother had kept her away from the trial, away from the news cameras, away from everything. "You threw," he coughed, red bubbles forming at the corner of his mouth. "That ball." Oh, he meant just now. The throw. Not before. Relief and disappointment crashed through Zara at the same time. She yanked off her hoodie, the only thing between her and the cold rain, and pressed it against the worst wound on his side. Blood soaked through immediately, warm and wrong against her hands. "Don't talk," she said. "Help is coming. Just don't die, okay?" Why did she say that? Why did she care if he died? This was Landon Cross, the monster, the man who deserved this. But looking at him now, broken, helpless, human, she couldn't see the monster her mother described. She just saw someone's son, maybe someone's father. Behind her, voices grew louder. Mr. Chen was shouting directions to someone. Miss Rita was on her phone, probably with 911. The Johnson twins were pushing through the growing crowd, phones out, recording everything. "Please," Landon whispered, his hand reaching up, grabbing Zara's wrist with surprising strength. His grip was cold, desperate. Don't let me." "You're not dying," Zara said, pressing harder on the wound even as tears blurred her vision. "You're not dying because I didn't save you just so you could die anyway. You hear me?" His eyes locked onto hers. Really looked at her this time. And something passed between them. Something Zara didn't have words for. Recognition, maybe. Or gratitude. Or just two people in the worst moment of their lives, clinging to the only solid thing in reach, each other. "Why?" he breathed out. "I don't know," Zara admitted, and it was the truest thing she'd ever said. Sirens screamed to a stop at the alley entrance. Doors slammed. Heavy boots pounded concrete. Voices barking orders, radios crackling. 2 paramedics burst through the crowd, equipment bags swinging. "Move! Everyone move!" Zara tried to pull back, but Landon's grip on her wrist tightened. "Your name," he rasped. "What's your name?" The paramedics were already pushing her aside, checking vitals, shouting medical terms Zara didn't understand. "Zara," she said quietly, not sure if he could even hear her anymore. "My name is Zara Morrison." His eyes went wide, not with confusion, with recognition, real recognition this time. And in that split second before the paramedics blocked her view completely, Zara saw something flash across Landon Cross's broken face that she didn't understand. It looked like horror. It looked like guilt. It looked like he'd just seen a ghost. "Morrison," he whispered, so quiet only Zara heard it. Oh God, Cyrus Morrison's daughter. Then the paramedics lifted him onto the stretcher and he was gone, swallowed by the ambulance's bright lights and chaos, leaving Zara kneeling in the rain and broken glass, her hoodie soaked with the blood of her father's killer, wondering what the hell she'd just done. A police officer with kind eyes crouched down beside Zara. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said gently, pulling out a notepad. "You live around here?" Zara nodded, still staring at the spot where the ambulance had been. Red and blue lights still danced across the wet pavement, but the siren was fading now, getting farther away, taking Landon Cross with it, taking answers she didn't even know she needed. "Can you tell me what happened?" Zara's voice came out small, broken. 3 men. They were beating him, really bad. I saw it from my window. She pointed up. 3rd floor. Her window was still open, curtain fluttering in the wind like a white flag. And then, what did you do? I threw my ball. The words felt stupid, saying them out loud. Childish. Like admitting she'd tried to stop a freight train with a paper airplane. But the officer's expression shifted. From kind to something else. Respect, maybe. "You threw a ball from up there," he said slowly, looking between her window and the alley. "And hit one of them?" "2 of them," Zara corrected quietly. The officer stopped writing. "2. "Yes, sir." He stood up, walked to where the attackers had been standing, looked up at her window, did some kind of mental calculation. When he came back, he was shaking his head. That's incredible. That's major league level accuracy." Zara shrugged. "I practice a lot." "I can see that." He pulled something from his pocket, an evidence bag. Inside was her ball. The first one. The good one. The one her grandmother had given her for her 8th birthday. "I'm going to need to keep this for now. It's evidence. There's blood on it." Zara's chest tightened. That was her ball. Her only ball. The one she practiced with every single day for 3 years. The one that never missed. The one that felt like an extension of her own arm. "When do I get it back?" The officer's face softened. "I don't know, honey. Could be a while. This is an attempted murder case now." Attempted murder. The words hung in the air like smoke. Someone had tried to murder Landon Cross tonight, and Zara had stopped them. Zara Morrison, daughter of the man Landon Cross allegedly killed, had saved his life. The irony tasted like metal in her mouth. "What's your name?" the officer asked. "Zara. Just Zara." "Well, just Zara. You did something really brave tonight. Your parents should be proud." Zara's throat closed up. "My mom's dead. I live with my grandmother." The officer's expression crumbled. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Nothing about tonight was okay. "Is your grandmother home? We should probably talk to her too." Panic shot through Zara like lightning. "She's at work. Night shift. She doesn't get home until 7. That was a lie. Grandmother got home at 6:30. But Zara needed time. Time to figure out what to say. Time to figure out what she'd done. Time to understand why Landon Cross had looked at her like that when she said her name. Like he'd seen a ghost. Like he knew exactly who she was. The officer handed her his card. "Have her call me when she gets in, okay? We're going to need a formal statement." Zara took the card with numb fingers. Around them, the crowd was dispersing. The show was over. People drifted back to their apartments, their late-night TV shows, their normal lives. By morning, this would just be another story. Another South Side statistic. Except it wouldn't be. Because someone had filmed it. Zara saw them. The Johnson twins, phones still out, whispering to each other with excited eyes. Mr. Chen was on his phone too, probably calling his daughter who worked at the local news station. By sunrise, this would be everywhere, and Zara's face would be attached to it. The girl who saved a billionaire, the girl who threw a miracle. What they wouldn't know, what they couldn't know, was that she'd saved the man who destroyed her family. And somehow, impossibly, he'd known her name. Zara climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her apartment slowly, each step heavier than the last. When she reached her door, she stopped. Her hands were still covered in blood. Landon Cross's blood. The same blood that ran through the veins of the man who'd killed her father. Or had he? That look in his eyes, that horror, that guilt. What if everything her mother told her was a lie? Zara stood at the bathroom sink, watching red water spiral down the drain. She'd been scrubbing for 5 minutes straight, but it felt like the blood wouldn't come off, wouldn't fully disappear. Even after the water ran clear, she could still feel it. Sticky. Wrong. A stain that went deeper than skin. The clock on the wall said 3:17 in the morning. Her grandmother would be home in less than 4 hours. What was she going to say? How could she possibly explain this? Hey, Grandma, remember that man who killed Daddy? Yeah, I saved his life tonight. With my baseball, the one you gave me. Oh, and he knows who I am. Isn't that weird? Zara caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Her braids were a mess. Her eyes looked hollow. There was a small cut on her cheek from the window frame she hadn't even felt until now. She looked like someone who'd been to war. Maybe she had been. She changed into dry clothes, threw the bloody hoodie in the back of her closet where grandmother wouldn't find it, and went to her window. The same window she'd leaned out of 43 minutes ago. The alley below was empty now. Just yellow police tape and dark stains the rain hadn't washed away yet. Zara pulled out her phone. Cracked screen. She'd dropped it last month and couldn't afford to fix it. But it still worked. Barely. She typed into the search bar. Landon Cross apartment fire. Cyrus Morrison. Her finger hovered over the search button. Did she really want to know? Did she want to read the articles, see the photos, relive the story her mother had told her 1,000 times? The story of how Landon Cross bought their building, how he wanted to tear it down and build luxury condos, how the tenants refused to leave, how her father, Cyrus Morrison, led the resistance, organized meetings, filed complaints, made Landon Cross's life difficult, and how, 3 weeks before the eviction deadline, a fire started in the middle of the night. A fire that was ruled accidental. A fire that destroyed everything. A fire that killed her father's spirit long before his heart gave out 2 years later. Zara pressed search. The first result was an old news article from 12 years ago. The headline made her stomach twist. Developer acquitted in suspicious apartment fire. Tenant leader Cyrus Morrison speaks out. She clicked it. The photo loaded slowly. Her internet was always trash this late at night. But when it finally appeared, Zara's breath caught. Her father, young, alive, standing on courthouse steps with her mother beside him, holding a 3-year-old Zara in her arms. Her father's face was filled with rage and grief. Her mother was crying. And baby Zara was reaching for her father's face, not understanding why everyone was so sad. Below the photo, a quote. Landon Cross is a murderer who hides behind expensive lawyers and legal loopholes. He wanted us gone, and he didn't care how it happened. My family barely escaped with our lives. Others weren't so lucky. One day, he'll pay for this. I don't know when, I don't know how, but you can't run from justice forever. Zara's hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. Her father had said those words, had believed them, had died believing Landon Cross was guilty, and tonight, 12 years later, Zara had saved him. She scrolled down, reading more: court documents, witness testimonies, fire marshal reports. Everything pointed to Landon Cross, motive, opportunity, a pattern of aggressive tenant removal tactics in other buildings he'd bought. But the evidence wasn't quite enough. Insufficient proof of intent, the judge had ruled. Landon Cross walked free. Cyrus Morrison's heart gave out 26 months later. Doctors called it cardiac arrest. Zara's mother called it murder by broken heart. Zara kept scrolling, hungry for something, anything, that would help her understand what happened tonight. Why Landon looked at her like that. Why he seemed to know exactly who she was. Then she found something that made her blood run cold. An article from 6 months after the trial. Acquitted developer Landon Cross. I've been looking for the Morrison family for years. I have something to tell them. But there was no follow-up article. No explanation of what he wanted to say. Because Zara's mother had moved them across the city. Changed their phone number. Made sure Landon Cross could never find them. Until tonight. When Zara dropped right into his lap, the key turned in the lock at 6:43 in the morning. Zara was still awake, still sitting by the window, still trying to make sense of a night that felt like it happened to someone else. She heard her grandmother's tired footsteps in the hallway, the sound of keys being dropped in the bowl by the door, the heavy sigh that came every morning after a 12-hour shift cleaning hospital floors. "Baby girl?" Grandmother Amara's voice called out. "You up already?" Zara didn't answer. Couldn't. Footsteps came closer, then stopped. "Zara?" Grandmother appeared in the doorway, still in her cleaning service uniform. 58 years old, but looked 70. Tired eyes that had seen too much. Hands that never stopped working. She looked at Zara. Really looked. And her face changed. "What happened?" "Nothing," Zara said automatically. "Don't lie to me, child." Grandmother crossed the room in 3 steps, grabbed Zara's chin gently, turned her face to the light, saw the cut on her cheek. "What happened?" "I fell." "You fell." Grandmother's voice was flat, disbelieving. "Yeah, at the window. I was leaning out and that's when Grandmother saw it. The blood on Zara's hoodie sleeve. Just a small spot Zara had missed, barely visible, but Grandmother saw everything. Her hand shot out, grabbed Zara's wrist, pulled her arm into the light. "Whose blood is that?" Zara's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. "Whose blood is that, Zara?" "I helped someone," Zara finally whispered. "Someone who was hurt." "Helped who? Where?" "In the alley, last night. There were men. They were—" Grandmother's phone buzzed, once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. She pulled it out, looked at the screen, and her face went white. Oh, God, no." She turned the phone around, showed, Zara the screen. It was a video. Posted 2 hours ago, already had 40,000 views. The title, 10-year-old girl saves billionaire from brutal attack. Hero. The thumbnail was grainy security footage from Mr. Chen's bodega camera. You could see Zara's silhouette in her window, could see her arm pull back, could see the moment the ball left her hand. "That's you," Grandmother said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's my grandbaby on the news." "Grandma, I can explain." "You were supposed to be asleep. You were supposed to be safe." Grandmother's voice cracked. "What were you thinking? Those men could have come back. They could have hurt you. They could have—" She stopped, sat down hard on Zara's bed, put her face in her hands, and started crying. Zara had seen her grandmother cry exactly 3 times in her life, once at her mother's funeral, once at her grandfather's funeral, and once when the eviction notice came, and they thought they'd be homeless. But never like this. Never these broken, terrified sobs that shook her whole body. "I'm sorry," Zara whispered, sitting beside her. "I'm so sorry." "Do you know who that man was?" Grandmother asked through her tears. Zara's heart stopped. "What?" Grandmother looked up, mascara running down her cheeks. The man you saved. Do you know who he was? The room felt like it was closing in, getting smaller, suffocating. The video says his name, Grandmother continued, pulling up another article. Landon Cross, real estate developer, billionaire. The reporters are calling you a hero, saying you saved his life. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped the phone. Baby girl. Grandmother grabbed Zara's face with both hands, looked her dead in the eyes. That's the man who killed your father. I know, Zara whispered. Grandmother jerked back like she'd been slapped. You knew. Not at first, not until after, not until you saved him. Grandmother's voice was ice and fire at the same time. You saved the man who destroyed our family, the man who killed your daddy. You saved him. Grandma, I didn't mean to. You should have let him die. The words hung in the air like a curse. Zara had never heard her grandmother say anything like that before, had never heard that much hatred in her voice, that much pain. Daddy wouldn't have wanted. Your daddy's dead because he was too good, too merciful, too forgiving. Grandmother stood up, pacing now, hands clenching and unclenching. That mercy got him killed, Zara, and I won't let it kill you too. She grabbed her phone, started dialing. What are you doing? Zara asked. Calling my brother. Marcus needs to know about this. And just like that, everything got worse. Uncle Marcus showed up 23 minutes later. Zara heard his truck before she saw it. That familiar diesel rumble that usually meant safety, meant family, meant someone who brought groceries when they ran out and fixed things when they broke and told jokes that made Grandmother actually smile. But today, that rumble sounded different, sounded like a storm coming. His boots were heavy on the stairs. 1 flight, 2 flights, 3 flights, each step deliberate, angry. The apartment door flew open before Grandmother could reach it. Uncle Marcus filled the doorway. 52 years old, construction contractor, 6'2" with hands that could crush concrete. He'd been Zara's father figure since she was 3. The man who taught her to throw, who came to every school event, who called her kiddo and slipped her $20 on birthdays even though she knew he couldn't afford it. Right now, he looked like he wanted to put his fist through a wall. Where is she? His voice was controlled, too controlled. Marcus, calm down, Grandmother started. Where is she? Zara stepped out of her room. I'm here, Uncle Marcus. He looked at her, really looked, and something in his expression made Zara's stomach drop. He wasn't worried, he was furious. You want to tell me, he said slowly, crossing his arms, what the hell you were thinking last night? I was trying to help. Help? His voice rose. Help? You interfered in a situation you had no business being in. You put yourself in danger. He stopped, took a breath, started again quieter, more dangerous. Do you have any idea who that man is? Landon Cross, Zara said quietly. I know who he is. Then you know he's the reason your father is dead. That's what everyone says. Marcus's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. You just what? He stepped closer. You just decided to save the man who destroyed this family. The man who burned down our building? The man who walked free while your father had a heart attack from the stress? Each word was a hammer blow. Marcus. She didn't know at first. Grandmother tried to intervene. She knew enough. Marcus turned to his sister. This is what happens when you let kids run wild. When you work nights and leave her alone. When you don't teach her about loyalty, about family. Don't you dare, Grandmother's voice went sharp. I'll dare whatever I want. This is my family too. Cyrus was my brother. The apartment went silent. Uncle Marcus ran a hand over his face. When he looked at Zara again, his expression had changed. Softer, almost sad. "Come here, kiddo." Zara didn't move. "I said come here." She took 3 steps forward, close enough to smell the sawdust and coffee that always clung to him. He put his hands on her shoulders. Gentle, the way he used to when she was little and had nightmares. "I'm not mad at you," he said quietly. "I'm scared for you. You understand that?" Zara nodded, not trusting her voice. "That man, Landon Cross, he's dangerous. He might seem grateful now, but men like him don't forget faces. Don't forget names. You put yourself on his radar last night." "He already knew my name," Zara blurted out. Marcus went very still. "What?" "When I told him my name, he recognized it. He said Morrison like he knew exactly who I was." Something flickered across Uncle Marcus's face. Fast. There and gone. But Zara saw it. Fear. "That's even worse," Marcus said, letting go of her shoulders. "That means he's been looking for us. After all these years." He turned to grandmother. "We need to move. Change addresses. Maybe even change names. We can't afford—" "I'll pay for it. Whatever it costs. But we need to disappear. Before he finds us." "He already found us," Zara said. "Last night." "No." Marcus's voice went hard again. "Last night you found him. There's a difference." He pulled out his phone, started scrolling. His jaw tightened. "The video's gone viral. 400,000 views. Your face is everywhere, Zara. Every news station is looking for the hero girl." He looked at grandmother. "You need to keep her inside. No school, no going out, not until this dies down." "For how long?" Zara asked. Uncle Marcus met her eyes. "As long as it takes." But the way he said it, the tone, the tension, made it sound less like protection and more like a prison sentence. And for the first time in her life, Zara wondered if Uncle Marcus was scared for her, or scared of something else entirely. 3 days passed, like 3 years. Zara wasn't allowed to leave the apartment, wasn't allowed to go to school, wasn't even allowed to stand by the window anymore because Uncle Marcus said reporters had cameras with zoom lenses and they'd find her. So she sat in the dark, watched dust particles float through the thin strips of sunlight that made it past the closed curtains, listened to her grandmother move around the apartment like a ghost, making food nobody ate. The TV stayed on. Always on. Every channel covering the same story with different words. The mysterious hero girl who vanished after saving billionaire Landon Cross. Police searching for the brave young witness. Landon Cross released from hospital, offering $50,000 reward for information about his rescuer. $50,000. That was more money than grandmother made in 2 years. That was college tuition. New apartment, car that didn't break down every month, everything they'd ever needed. All Zara had to do was come forward. But Uncle Marcus said no, said the money was blood money, said Landon Cross didn't do anything out of kindness, only manipulation. "He wants to find you so he can silence you," Marcus had told her on day 2. "You're a witness. You saw what happened. You could testify about his connections to dangerous people." But that didn't make sense to Zara. Landon was the victim. He was the one who got beat up. What was there to testify about? Unless Uncle Marcus knew something she didn't. On the morning of day 4, Zara woke up to voices in the kitchen. Angry voices. Grandmother and Uncle Marcus arguing about something. She crept to her door, pressed her ear against it. "Can't keep her locked up forever, Marcus. She has school. She has a life. She won't have a life if Landon Cross gets to her first. You're being paranoid. I'm being careful. There's a difference." Silence. Then grandmother's voice, quieter. "What aren't you telling me?" "What?" "You've been different since that night. Agitated. Oh, you check your phone every 5 minutes. You keep looking over your shoulder. What do you know about this that I don't?" More silence. Longer this time. I know men like Landon Cross, Marcus finally said. I know how they operate. I know what they're capable of. So do I. He killed my husband. No. Marcus's voice dropped, became something else. He didn't. Zara's breath caught. What did you just say? Grandmother's voice was ice. Nothing. I meant he might as well have killed Cyrus. The stress, the court case, it's the same thing. That's not what you said. Amara, drop it. You said he didn't kill Cyrus, like you know something, like you were there. I was there, at the trial, same as you. That's not what I mean, and you know it. Footsteps, heavy, coming toward Zara's room. She jumped back into bed, pulled covers up, closed her eyes. Her door opened, closed. Someone sat on the edge of her mattress. She knew the weight, the smell of sawdust and coffee. Uncle Marcus. I know you're awake, kiddo. Zara kept her eyes shut. You're a terrible actress. Always have been. She opened one eye. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. Sad, maybe, or guilty. Are you scared of something, Uncle Marcus? He blinked. What makes you say that? You keep acting like something bad is going to happen, like you're waiting for it. I'm protecting you. From what? From making the same mistake your father made. His voice went hard. Trusting the wrong people. Believing the best in men who only want to use you. Did you know my dad? Zara asked. Before the fire? Of course I knew him. He was my brother. No, I mean, did you know him? Like, were you close? Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Why are you asking me this? Because Grandma says you two didn't talk much back then. She said you and Daddy had a fight about something and stopped speaking for almost a year. Right before the fire. Marcus stood up fast. Too fast. Your grandmother talks too much. What was the fight about? Nothing. Old history. Family stuff. What kind of family stuff? The kind that's none of your business. He walked to the door, stopped, didn't turn around. Stay away from the windows, Zara. And if anyone comes looking for you, anyone, you don't know anything. Understand? Uncle Marcus, understand? Yeah, I understand. He left, closed the door, and Zara lay in the dark, wondering why her uncle sounded less like he was protecting her and more like he was protecting himself. The knock came on Saturday afternoon, 3 sharp raps that made everyone in the apartment freeze. Grandmother was folding laundry. Uncle Marcus was fixing the leaky faucet in the kitchen. Zara was reading on the couch, or pretending to read while actually listening to every word they weren't saying to each other. Knock. 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 You expecting someone? Marcus asked, his voice tight. Grandmother shook her head. Nobody knows we're here. The whole city knows you're here, Amara. That video's been viewed 2 million times. Knock. 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 More insistent this time. Marcus wiped his hands on a towel, moved toward the door with the careful steps of someone approaching a bomb. He looked through the peephole and went completely still. No, he whispered. No, no, no. Who is it? Grandmother asked. Marcus didn't answer. Just stood there, frozen, one hand on the doorknob like he was trying to decide whether to open it or barricade it. Marcus, who is it? It's him. Zara's book fell from her hands. Him who? Marcus turned around slowly. His face had gone pale. Sweat beaded on his forehead even though the apartment was cold. Landon Cross is at our door. The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Grandmother's hands went to her mouth. How did he find us? Does it matter? Marcus's voice shook. Don't open it. Don't make a sound. Maybe he'll leave. But Zara was already standing up. Zara, sit down, Marcus hissed. She ignored him. Walked toward the door, each step feeling like walking toward the edge of a cliff. Zara Morrison, I swear to God. Knock, knock, knock. Then a voice, muffled through the door but clear enough. Mrs. Morrison, my name is Landon Cross. I know you don't want to talk to me. I understand that. But I have something I need to tell you. Something about your husband. About Cyrus. Please, 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Grandmother's face crumbled. Hearing her dead husband's name from that man's mouth, it was too much. Don't you dare open that door, Marcus said, moving to block Zara. Don't you dare. But grandmother was already walking forward, past Marcus, past Zara, straight to the door. Amara, don't! She unlocked it, chain still on, opened it just a crack. Through the gap, Zara could see him, Landon Cross, face still bruised, stitches still visible across his forehead, leaning on a cane, looking nothing like the monster from the news articles, looking tired, broken, human. What could you possibly have to say about my husband? Grandmother's voice was cold enough to freeze fire. I know who really set that fire 12 years ago. Landon's voice was quiet, steady. And it wasn't me. Marcus moved fast. Faster than Zara had ever seen him move. He was at the door in 3 steps, slamming it shut, turning the deadbolt. Get away from my family, he shouted through the door. You're not welcome here. You hear me? Not welcome. Silence from the other side. Then, I know you're in there, Marcus. Marcus's hand froze on the deadbolt. Yeah, Landon continued, his voice carrying clearly through the thin door. I know you're there. I know you've been feeding them lies for 12 years. I know what you did. You don't know anything, Marcus shouted back, but his voice cracked. I have proof. Bank records. Emails. Witness statements. Everything the police didn't find 12 years ago because someone made sure they didn't look hard enough. Grandmother turned slowly to look at her brother. Marcus? What is he talking about? He's lying. Trying to divide us. Can't you see that? But Zara was watching her uncle's face, watching the way his hands shook, the way sweat ran down his temple, the way his eyes darted to the door, to grandmother, to Zara, like a trapped animal looking for an escape. You paid them off, didn't you? Landon's voice came through the door. The fire inspector, the lead detective. You made sure the investigation pointed at me and nowhere else. Lies, Marcus roared. Then why are you scared? Landon asked. Why won't you let them hear what I have to say? Grandmother reached for the door chain. Amara, don't. She unhooked it, opened the door wide. Landon Cross stood in the hallway, holding a thick manila folder. His eyes found Zara first, held her gaze. Hello, Zara. Thank you for saving my life. Then he looked at Marcus, and Marcus looked back with eyes full of murder. You need to leave, Marcus said, his voice deadly quiet. Right now. Before I do something we'll both regret. I'm not leaving until I tell them the truth. The truth? Marcus laughed, bitter, sharp. You wouldn't know the truth if it burned your building down. And just like that, the room went silent. Everyone heard it. The slip. The confession hidden in sarcasm. Grandmother's face went white. What did you just say? Marcus tried to backtrack. That came out wrong. I meant no. Grandmother's voice cut through the air like a blade. Say it again. Exactly what you just said. Amara, you're twisting my words. You said your building. Not the building. Not our building. You said it burned down his building. Her hands were shaking. Like you were there. Like you knew. Everyone knew. It was all over the news. Stop lying to me, Marcus. Tears streamed down grandmother's face. Stop lying to me right now, or so help me God. Landon stepped forward, held out the folder. Everything's in here, Mrs. Morrison. Bank statements, insurance documents, fire marshal reports that were buried, emails between your brother and the contractors who set the fire. Those are fake, Marcus said quickly. Too quickly. He forged them. Rich people do that. They buy their way out of... Then explain this. Landon pulled out a photograph, handed it to grandmother. Zara moved closer, looked over her grandmother's shoulder. It was a bank statement. Marcus Morrison's name at the top. A deposit dated 2 weeks after the fire. $400,000. Insurance payout for building damages. But Marcus wasn't the building owner. Never was. Why would you receive insurance money for a building you didn't own? Landon asked quietly. I was the building manager, Marcus said. It's standard. No, it's not. Landon pulled out another document. I checked. Building managers don't receive insurance payouts. Building owners do. Unless, he paused, unless someone filed a fraudulent claim, made it look like they had an ownership stake they never had. Grandmother was staring at the bank statement like it might catch fire in her hands. Marcus, tell me this is fake. Tell me right now. Marcus's jaw worked. No words came out. Tell me you didn't do this. Tell me you didn't... Her voice broke completely. Tell me you didn't kill my husband for $400,000. I didn't kill Cyrus, Marcus finally exploded. The fire wasn't supposed to touch the residential floors. It was supposed to be contained to the storage units, controlled, just enough to make the building unlivable so the tenants would leave. The room went silent. Nobody breathed. Oh my God, grandmother whispered. Oh my God, you did it. You actually did it. It was supposed to be empty, Marcus's voice cracked. Cyrus wasn't supposed to be there that night. He told me he was going to his union meeting. He told me. You knew. Zara's voice came out small, broken. You knew the fire was happening and you didn't warn anyone? Marcus turned to her, eyes wild. I was trying to help, kiddo. I was trying to get everyone out of that hellhole. The building was falling apart. Rats, mold, broken heat. We were living like animals. So you burned it down? Grandmother's voice was ice. I made a deal with Landon's company. They paid me to make the tenants leave. $50,000 up front. But Cyrus, his voice turned bitter. Cyrus wouldn't listen. Kept organizing. Kept fighting. Kept making everything harder. So you decided to burn down the building, Landon said flatly, with people inside. No, I told you. It was supposed to be empty. Contained. But the fire spread faster than they said it would. And Cyrus, Marcus's voice broke. Cyrus came back. He forgot some papers. Some documents for the court case. He went back inside. Tears were running down his face now, real tears. Ugly, desperate tears. I tried to stop him. I screamed at him not to go in, but he didn't listen. He never listened. Because he didn't know it was a trap, grandmother said, her voice dead, hollow. He didn't know his own brother set him up to die. I didn't set him up to die. Marcus was sobbing now. I loved him. He was my brother. It was an accident. A terrible, horrible accident. An accident you caused? Zara said. Her voice was quiet, cold. An accident you got paid for. Marcus looked at her, and in his eyes Zara saw the truth. He wasn't sorry Cyrus died. He was sorry he got caught. Get out, grandmother whispered. Amara, get out of my house. Marcus stood there, shaking, looking between his sister and his niece and the man he'd tried to destroy. Then he ran. The door slammed behind. Marcus so hard the walls shook. For a long moment nobody moved, nobody spoke. The apartment filled with a silence so heavy it felt like drowning. Then grandmother collapsed. Not dramatically, not with a scream. She just folded. Like all the strings holding her up had been cut at once. She sank to the floor, the bank statement still clutched in her hand, and made a sound Zara had never heard before. A sound like dying. Grandma! Zara dropped to her knees beside her. Landon moved to help, but grandmother held up one hand, stopping him. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't touch me. Don't. I can't." She looked up at Landon with eyes that had aged a decade in the last 5 minutes. "My brother killed my husband." The words hung there, undeniable, irreversible. "And I let him into my home, let him near my grandbaby, let him pretend to care about us while he—" Her voice broke into pieces. "While he spent blood money on groceries, on birthday presents, on lies." Zara held her grandmother while she shook with sobs that sounded like they were tearing her apart from the inside. Landon stood awkwardly near the door, still holding the folder, looking like he wanted to disappear, looking like he wished he'd never come. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm so sorry you had to find out this way." Grandmother looked up at him, mascara streaking her face, eyes red and swollen. "Did you know?" she asked. "12 years ago, when you went to trial, did you know it was Marcus?" Landon was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. "I suspected. Had no proof. My lawyers found some inconsistencies in his testimony, things that didn't add up. But we couldn't prove anything. And when the judge ruled in my favor, He stopped, swallowed hard. "I was just relieved to be free. I didn't push harder. I should have. I'm sorry." "You let me believe you killed my husband for 12 years. I know. You could have told me the truth." "I tried." Landon's voice cracked. "I tried to find you. After the trial, but you'd moved, changed your number. I hired investigators, but you'd gone completely off-grid. I spent years looking for you because I knew Marcus was the one who did it, and I knew someday he'd slip up. Someday there'd be proof." He gestured to the folder. 3 months ago, one of his construction workers came forward. Guilty conscience. Told me everything. How Marcus hired them. How he paid them under the table. How he promised them the building would be empty. "Why didn't you go to the police?" "I did. They said the case was too old. Evidence was circumstantial. Without a confession, there was nothing they could do." Landon looked at Zara. "And then a 10-year-old girl saved my life and said her name was Morrison. And I knew this was God giving me one more chance to make things right." Grandmother stood up slowly, painfully, walked to the kitchen sink, washed her face, stared out the window at nothing. "My brother," she said to her reflections, the glass. "My own blood. How did I not see it?" "He's good at lying," Landon said. "He's had 12 years of practice. He came here every week, brought food, fixed things, played with Zara." Her voice broke again. "He looked me in the eye and lied. Every single time." Zara felt something building inside her. Not sadness. Not anymore. Rage. Pure, white-hot rage. "Where did he go?" she asked. Both adults turned to look at her. "When he ran out. Where did he go?" "Baby, we don't know. He has an office, a construction site. He keeps files there, evidence." Zara's hands clenched into fists. "He told me once he keeps everything. Every receipt, every contract, every—" She stopped, remembered something. 2 weeks ago, Uncle Marcus had given her a key. "Emergency use only," he'd said, "in case you ever need to reach me and I'm not answering my phone." She'd thought it was sweet, protective. Now she realized what it really was. Insurance. A way to make sure if anyone ever came looking, there'd be a witness who could say she had access. She could have planted evidence. She could have lied. He'd been setting her up, just in case. "I know where he keeps everything," Zara said quietly, "and I have a key." Grandmother turned around fast. "Absolutely not. You're not going anywhere near that man. We need proof, real proof, enough that the police can't ignore." "Then I'll go," Landon said. He knows your face. He'll see you coming. Then I'll call the police, tell them what we know. And they'll do nothing, just like last time. Zara looked at her grandmother. We have one chance. Before he destroys the evidence, before he runs. No. Grandmother's voice was final. I won't risk you. Grandma, Zara's voice broke. He killed my dad. Grandmother stared at Zara for a long time. Then she looked at Landon. Tell me what you're thinking, she said quietly. Because I can see it on your face. You already have a plan. Landon set the folder on the kitchen table. I have resources. Security people. Private investigators. We could have them search Marcus's office. Illegal search, Grandmother interrupted. Anything they find gets thrown out. Not if he invites them in. Why would he invite anyone in? He just confessed to murder and ran. Because he doesn't think he confessed. Landon pulled out his phone. He thinks he slipped up in front of family. People who can't testify against him in court. Spousal privilege doesn't apply to siblings, but family loyalty does. He's counting on that. Zara understood where he was going. He thinks you won't turn on him. Grandmother's face went hard. He thought wrong. But he doesn't know that yet, Landon continued, which means we have a window. Maybe 24 hours. Before he realizes you're serious. Before he destroys evidence. So what do we do? Landon looked at Zara. Really looked at her. Like he was trying to decide if she could handle what he was about to say. Zara wears a wire. Confronts him. Gets him to confess on tape. Absolutely not. Grandmother's voice could have cut steel. It's the only way. I said no. She's 10 years old. I will not use my grandbaby as bait for a murderer. He won't hurt me, Zara said quietly. Both adults turned to look at her. He won't hurt me, she repeated, stronger this time. He's had 12 years to hurt me. 12 years to make me disappear if he thought I was a threat. But he didn't. Because he loves me. In his own sick, twisted way, he actually loves me. Grandmother's eyes filled with tears. Baby, love doesn't stop desperate people from doing desperate things. I know. But right now, I'm the only one he'll talk to. The only one he'll let his guard down around. Zara looked at Landon. You said you have resources. Security people who can keep me safe. The best. Then I'll do it. Zara, Grandma, he killed Daddy. Her voice cracked on the last word. He killed Daddy and let us think it was someone else for 12 years. He let us hate Mr. Cross for something he didn't do. He took your money for groceries that he bought with blood money. He played with me. Taught me to throw. Told me stories about how brave Daddy was. Tears were streaming down her face now. All while knowing he was the reason Daddy was dead. The apartment went silent except for Zara's ragged breathing. I have to do this, she whispered. I have to make him pay for what he did. Not just to Daddy. To all of us. To you. To me. To Mr. Cross. Grandmother looked at Landon. If anything happens to her, it won't, I promise you. Promises are easy to make. Then let me prove it. Landon pulled out his phone, made a call. Angelo, I need your team. Full surveillance package. Client protection detail. A 10-year-old girl. He listened for a moment. Yes, I'm serious. Her life might be in danger. No, I can't explain over the phone. Tomorrow. Early. Thank you. He hung up, looked at Grandmother. Angelo Reeves, former Secret Service. Best in the business. He'll have a team here by 7 a.m. to brief us on the plan. And this wire? Grandmother asked. It'll hold up in court? If we do it right, if Zara gets him to confess to specific details, dates, names, dollar amounts, The kind of information only someone who was actually there would know. Zara sat down at the kitchen table. Her legs felt like water. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She'd just volunteered to confront a murderer. Her uncle, the man who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd carried her on his shoulders at the fair, who'd slipped her extra cookies when grandmother wasn't looking, the man who'd killed her father and lied about it for 12 years. When? Zara asked. Tomorrow evening, Landon said. His construction office, after his workers leave. You'll say you want to talk, to understand, that you don't believe what he said was true. And if he doesn't confess, then we'll find another way. But they all knew there was no other way. This was it. One chance. One conversation. One 10-year-old girl against a man who'd already killed once and gotten away with it. Grandmother pulled Zara into her arms, held her so tight it almost hurt. You don't have to do this, baby. We can run. Disappear. Start over somewhere else. No. Zara pulled back, looked her grandmother in the eye. No more running. No more hiding. No more letting him win. She stood up, wiped her tears. Tomorrow, Uncle Marcus tells the truth, whether he wants to or not. Angelo Reeves arrived at 7 a.m. sharp. He was exactly what Zara expected from a former Secret Service agent. Tall, built like he could bench press a car, with eyes that missed nothing. He brought 2 other people, a woman named Kira who handled tech, and a younger man named TJ who looked like he could disappear into a crowd without trying. They turned grandmother's tiny living room into a command center in 15 minutes. Laptops, cameras, radio equipment, maps of Marcus's construction site spread across the coffee table. Zara sat on the couch watching them work, trying to ignore the knot of fear in her stomach. All right, Zara. Angelo crouched down to her eye level. I'm going to be straight with you. What you're about to do is dangerous. Your uncle is cornered, desperate. Those are the 2 most dangerous things a person can be. You understand? Zara nodded. If at any point, you feel unsafe, you say the code word. What's your favorite food? Pancakes. Okay, your code word is pancakes. You work it into conversation naturally. Remember when you made me pancakes, Uncle Marcus? Something like that. The second we hear it, we pull you out. No questions asked, got it? Got it. Kira came over with what looked like a small black button. This is the wire. It goes under your shirt right here. She pointed to Zara's collarbone. Body heat keeps it warm so it doesn't show up on thermal imaging if he's paranoid enough to check. Microphone is so sensitive it'll pick up a whisper from across the room. She demonstrated how to attach it. The adhesive felt cold against Zara's skin. We'll be in a van 1 block away, TJ added, pointing to the map. Response time is 45 seconds if things go sideways. Angelo will be closer. Hidden. You won't see him, but he'll be there. What if Marcus searches her? Grandmother asked, her voice tight with worry. Then we abort, Angelo said simply. But I don't think he will. Family doesn't search family. That's what we're counting on. Landon had been quiet until now, standing by the window, looking out at the street. What if he doesn't confess? What if he just denies everything? Then Zara pushes. Gently. Uses what we know to back him into corners. Angelo looked at Zara. You ever played chess? A little? This is like chess. Every question is a move. You're not trying to attack. You're trying to trap. Make him feel safe enough to talk, but uncomfortable enough that he needs to explain himself. He pulled out a piece of paper with questions written on it. Memorize these. Don't read them like a script. Make them feel natural, like you're genuinely confused and hurt and trying to understand. Zara took the paper. Read the questions. Why did you take the insurance money? Who helped you set the fire? Did you know Daddy would be there? Where did the $400,000 go? Why didn't you stop him from going inside? Her hand shook reading them. These weren't just questions. They were weapons, each one designed to cut, to expose, to force truth out of lies. "I can't do this," Zara whispered suddenly. Everyone stopped, looked at her. "Yes, you can," Grandmother said, sitting beside her. "You're the bravest person I know." "What if I mess up? What if he figures out I'm wearing a wire? What if you're the only person who can give your father justice?" Landon's voice was quiet but firm. "What if this is why you were on that fire escape that night? Why you saved my life? So we could get to this moment?" Zara looked up at him. "You really believe that?" "I believe you threw a baseball from 3 stories up and hit a moving target in the dark. I believe you saved a man you thought was your enemy because it was the right thing to do. I believe," his voice caught, "I believe your father would be so proud of who you are right now." Tears blurred Zara's vision. She looked at the questions again, memorized them, let them sink into her bones. "When?" she asked. 6 p.m., Angelo said. "His workers leave at 5:30. You show up at 6. Tell him you snuck out, that you need to talk. What if he's not there? He'll be there. Men like him always go back to the scene. They can't help themselves." Zara stood up, let Kira adjust the wire one more time, felt the weight of it against her chest. One small button, one conversation, one chance to make her father's death mean something. "I'm ready," she said, but she wasn't sure if she was lying. The hours between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. felt like drowning in slow motion. Zara tried to eat breakfast. Couldn't. The eggs tasted like cardboard. The toast stuck in her throat. Grandmother kept checking on her every 15 minutes. "You okay, baby?" Like asking could somehow make it true. Landon paced back and forth across the small living room, wearing a path in the already worn carpet. He checked his phone constantly, made calls, canceled meetings, his entire billion-dollar empire put on hold for a 10-year-old girl's mission. Angelo's team ran drills, over and over. "What if he grabs you?" TJ would ask. "I say pancakes and move toward the door," Zara would answer. "What if he blocks the door?" "Window, fire escape. Same route I used the night I saved Mr. Cross." "What if he has a weapon?" "I say pancakes immediately. Don't try to be a hero." They drilled until Zara could recite the responses in her sleep, until her fear turned into muscle memory. At 2 p.m., Grandmother pulled her aside. "You don't have to do this," she said for the 100th time. "We can still back out. Find another way." "There is no other way, Grandma." "Baby, he's my brother. I should be the one. He won't confess to you. He'll just make excuses. Tell you it was an accident. That he never meant for Daddy to get hurt." Zara's voice was steady now, stronger than it had been this morning. "But he'll talk to me, because he thinks I'm still his little kiddo. Still the girl who believed everything he said." Grandmother cupped Zara's face in her hands, hands that had scrubbed floors for 40 years, hands that had buried a husband and raised a granddaughter alone, hands that shook now with fear and pride and grief all mixed together. "You look so much like your father right now," she whispered. "Same eyes, same stubborn jaw, same fire that got him killed." "That fire didn't kill him. Uncle Marcus did." Grandmother nodded, kissed Zara's forehead. "Then go get him, baby. Make Marcus pay for what he did." At 5:15 p.m., they loaded into 2 vehicles, Angelo, Kira, and TJ in a plain white van, the kind that could be a plumber, an electrician, anybody. Nothing that screamed surveillance. Landon, Zara, and Grandmother in Landon's Mercedes. The drive to Marcus's construction site took 12 minutes. Felt like 12 hours. They parked 2 blocks away, out of sight. "Last chance to back out," Angelo said through Zara's earpiece. The wire was active now, every breath, every heartbeat, all of it being recorded. "I'm not backing out. Good girl. Remember, get him talking, let him explain. People who do bad things love to justify themselves. Give him that space. At 5:53 p.m., they watched the last construction worker leave, climbed into a beat-up pickup truck and drove away, radio blasting. The site was empty now, just Marcus's truck in the parking lot. Office lights on. He was there, waiting, like Angelo said he would be. "It's time," Angelo said. "You ready?" Zara looked at her grandmother, at Landon, at the construction office where her uncle, her father's killer, sat right now, probably going through papers, probably destroying evidence, probably thinking he'd gotten away with it one more time. "I'm ready." Grandmother grabbed her hand. "You say that word. The second you feel unsafe. You hear me?" "I hear you." Landon reached into his jacket, pulled out something small. Her baseball. The original one. The one the police had finally released as evidence. "I got it back for you," he said quietly. "Thought you might want it. For luck." Zara took it, felt the familiar weight, the scuffed leather, the slight imbalance that only she knew how to compensate for. This ball had saved a life. Maybe it could help her save the truth. She got out of the car. The evening air was cold, smelled like rain coming. The construction site looked different in the dying light. Darker, more dangerous. The office door was 50 feet away. 45. 40. Her legs felt like they might give out. 35. 30. Angelo's voice in her ear. "Breathe, Zara. Just breathe. You've got this." 25. 20. Through the office window, she could see him. Uncle Marcus, sitting at his desk, head in his hands. He looked smaller somehow, older, human, 15 feet. 10. Zara reached for the door handle and pushed it open. Marcus's head snapped up the second the door opened. For 3 long seconds, they just stared at each other. Then his face crumbled, relief and terror all at once. "Zara." He stood up so fast his chair rolled backward. "Kiddo, what are you doing here? Does your grandmother know?" "She knows." Zara stepped inside, closed the door behind her. The click sounded final, like a lock on a cell. "I told her I needed to talk to you." Marcus's eyes darted to the window, to the door, back to Zara. "It's not safe for you to be here alone. Come on, I'll drive you home." He moved toward her. "I don't want to go home." Zara's voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "I want answers." Marcus stopped. "Answers to what?" "To what Mr. Cross said. About the fire, about the money, about Daddy." Something flickered across Marcus's face. Fast. There and gone. But Zara saw it. Guilt. "That man is a liar, kiddo. You can't believe anything. $400,000, Uncle Marcus." Zara pulled the folded bank statement from her pocket. The one grandmother had given her. "That's how much you got 2 weeks after the fire. Why would you get insurance money for a building you didn't own?" Marcus looked at the paper like it was a snake. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters. Someone's been feeding you lies, trying to turn you against family." "Are you my family?" The question came out sharper than Zara intended, because family doesn't lie. Family doesn't let you spend 12 years hating the wrong person. Marcus's jaw clenched. "You're too young to understand the complexity. I'm old enough to understand $400,000. I'm old enough to understand that Daddy died in a fire you knew was coming." Her voice rose. "Why didn't you warn him?" "I did warn him," Marcus exploded, then caught himself, lowered his voice. "I did warn him. I told him not to go to the building that night. Told him to stay at his union meeting, but he didn't listen. He never listened." Zara's heart hammered. He was talking. Actually talking. "Why did you tell him not to go?" Marcus rubbed his face, sat down heavily in his chair. "Because I knew there'd be inspectors coming. Checking the building. I didn't want him there causing trouble." "What kind of inspectors?" "City inspectors. Fire safety." The kind that write violations. He was lying. Zara could tell. The same way you could tell when milk had gone bad just by looking at it. Uncle Marcus. She took a step closer. Mr. Cross showed us emails. Between you and the people who set the fire. He has proof. Marcus went very still. What kind of proof? Everything. Names, dates, bank transfers, the accelerant they used, how you paid them under the table. She watched his face carefully. He knows you hired them. I didn't hire anyone to set a fire. Then what did you hire them for? Silence, long and heavy. Uncle Marcus, please, just tell me the truth. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something in his expression broke. I hired them to make it unlivable, he said quietly. The building. It was falling apart anyway. Rats, mold, no heat half the winter. I thought if we made it worse, if the city condemned it, then everyone would have to leave. They'd get relocation money, new apartments, better lives. By burning it down? Not burning, just damaging. Storage units only, away from where people lived. His voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to spread. They promised me it wouldn't spread. But it did. Yeah. He put his face in his hands. It did. And Daddy went back inside. I didn't know he would. I swear to God, Zara, I didn't know. But you knew the fire was happening. You knew and you took money for it. $400,000. Marcus looked up. His eyes were red. Desperate. That money was supposed to help everyone. Supposed to relocate families, give them a fresh start, but after the fire, after everything went wrong, I couldn't give it back. I couldn't explain where it came from without admitting what I'd done. So you kept it. I kept it, and I've regretted it every day for 12 years. Zara felt the wire against her chest, felt every word being recorded, documented, turned into evidence. Did you tell the police it was Mr. Cross? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Why? Because, his voice broke completely. Because I was scared, and he was rich, and I thought he could afford good lawyers, thought he'd be fine. You framed an innocent man. I know. You let us hate him for 12 years. I know. Tears streamed down Zara's face now. You killed my father. Marcus stood up. It was an accident. You killed him. Marcus moved toward her, hands up, like approaching a wounded animal. Zara, please, let me explain. Explain what? She backed toward the door. Explain how you watched my daddy die? Explain how you spent 12 years pretending to care about me while spending blood money? Explain how you looked Grandma in the eye every single week and lied? I do care about you. His voice broke. You're like my own daughter. Everything I did, the money, the lies, it was all to protect you, to protect this family. By destroying it? By trying to save it from that hellhole. Marcus's control was slipping, words pouring out faster now, desperate. You don't remember, Zara. You were too young, but I remember. I remember your mother crying because there was no heat in February. I remember your father getting sick because of the mold. I remember rats in the walls and landlords who didn't care, and a Satsi building that was literally killing us. He grabbed a folder from his desk, slammed it down. Old photos spilled out. The building before the fire, crumbling brick, broken windows, graffiti everywhere. Look at it, he shouted. That's what we lived in. That's what your father was fighting to keep. And I thought if I could just make it bad enough that the city had to act, then everyone would get out. Everyone would be safe. Except Daddy wasn't safe. Marcus's face crumpled. He wasn't supposed to be there. But he was. I know. Tears streaming now. I know. I've lived with that every single day. Every time I see you, I see him. Every time you smile, it's his smile. Every time you throw that ball, it's with his arm. He sank into his chair, broken. You think I don't wake up screaming? You think I don't see him in my dreams, walking into that building, calling my name? You think I don't hear him begging me to tell him what's happening? Zara's breath caught. He called you? Marcus looked up, realized what he'd said. He called you, Zara repeated, understanding flooding through her like ice water. The night of the fire, Daddy called you. Zara, what did he say? It doesn't matter. What did he say? Marcus's voice came out as barely a whisper. He said there was smoke, asked if I knew what was happening, asked if I was there. What did you tell him? Silence. What did you tell him? I told him to get out. Marcus was sobbing now, ugly, desperate sobs. I told him to run, to forget the papers, to just get out. Did he? He said he would. He said he was leaving. He said, Marcus's voice broke completely. He said, I love you, brother. Whatever's happening, we'll figure it out together. The words hung in the air like smoke. Those were the last words he said to me, Marcus whispered. And I let him die thinking I didn't know, thinking it was an accident, thinking his brother wasn't the one who... He couldn't finish, just put his head down on the desk and wept. Zara stood there, watching him fall apart, feeling nothing but cold rage. You didn't just kill him, she said quietly. You killed him twice, once in the fire, and once every day after when you lied about it. Marcus looked up. I'm sorry. God, Zara, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back. I know. Sorry doesn't give me back 12 years. I know. Sorry doesn't fix what you did to Mr. Cross, to Grandma, to me. I know. He slammed his fist on the desk. I know it doesn't fix anything, but what was I supposed to do? Turn myself in? Go to prison? Leave you and Amara with no one? We'd have been better off with no one than with a liar. The words landed like a physical blow. Marcus stared at her, and something in his expression changed, hardened. You're wearing a wire, aren't you? Zara's blood turned to ice. That's why you came. Why you're asking all these questions. His voice went flat. Dead. They sent you. Landon Cross and his people. They sent a child to trap me. He stood up slowly, blocking the door. How much did they hear? I don't know what you're... Don't lie to me. He grabbed her shoulder, not hard, but firm enough to scare her. Angelo's voice crackled in her ear. Say the word, Zara. Say it now. But before she could speak, Marcus reached for her collar, found the wire, ripped it off. No, he whispered, staring at the small black button. No, no, no. What did you do? What did you do? Outside, tires squealed. Marcus heard it too. His head snapped toward the window, saw the van, saw Angelo running toward the office. He looked at Zara with eyes full of betrayal and terror. They're going to take me away. You deserve it. Maybe. His hand tightened on her shoulder. But you're coming with me. Let her go, Marcus. Angelo stood in the doorway, gun drawn, steady as stone. Behind him, TJ moved left. Kira moved right. Professional, practiced. 3 angles of coverage with nowhere for Marcus to hide. But Marcus wasn't looking at them. He was looking at Zara, his hand still gripping her shoulder, not hurting her, but not letting go either. You betrayed me, he said quietly, like he couldn't quite believe it. You're 10 years old and you betrayed me. You killed my father, Zara shot back. What did you expect? I expected loyalty. His voice rose. I expected family to protect family. I took care of you, fed you, loved you. And you... He looked at the wire crushed in his other hand. You wore a wire like I'm some kind of criminal. You are a criminal, Angelo said, taking 1 step forward. You committed arson, manslaughter, insurance fraud, obstruction of justice. You want me to keep going? Marcus's laugh was bitter, broken. You don't understand. None of you understand. I was trying to help. By killing your brother? It was an accident. Marcus's control finally shattered completely. I loved Cyrus. He was my brother, my best friend. We grew up sleeping in the same bed because we couldn't afford two. We shared everything, and that building, that cursed building, was killing him slowly, making him sick, breaking his spirit. Tears poured down his face. I thought if I could just get him out, get everyone out, they'd have a chance. Real houses, real heat, real lives. So you burned it down, Kira said from the right, with people inside. No, the people were supposed to be gone. I checked. I triple-checked. The union meeting was supposed to run until midnight. Cyrus was supposed to be there. He looked at Zara, desperate for her to understand. But he forgot his briefcase, some stupid papers for the court case. He called me, said he was going back. I told him no. I begged him not to go, but he wouldn't listen. He said it would only take 5 minutes. Marcus's voice broke. It took 3 minutes for him to get inside, 4 minutes for the fire to spread, and 7 minutes before I heard him screaming. The room went silent. You heard him, Zara whispered. I was there. Marcus's grip on her shoulder loosened. I was across the street, watching, making sure the fire stayed contained. And then I heard him yelling my name, asking for help. Why didn't you go in? I tried. His whole body shook. I ran toward the door, got 10 feet away before the explosion, gas line, took out the whole east wall, knocked me flat. By the time I got up, the building was an inferno. Firefighters were arriving, and Cyrus was... He couldn't finish. He died calling your name, Angelo said quietly. Witnesses heard it. The fire reports documented it. He died thinking his brother would save him. Marcus collapsed, just folded onto the floor like all his bones had turned to water. I know. And I've died every day since. Every single day. Angelo moved forward, holstered his gun, pulled out handcuffs. Marcus Morrison, you're under arrest for... Wait. Landon's voice came from behind them. He stepped through the doorway, grandmother beside him. Both of them had heard everything through the backup audio feed. Grandmother walked past Angelo, past TJ and Kira, straight to her brother on the floor. She stood over him, this man who'd lied to her for 12 years, who'd killed her husband, who'd destroyed everything. Look at me, she said. Marcus looked up, face destroyed, eyes red. I loved you, grandmother whispered. My whole life, I loved you. You were my big brother, my protector, the person I trusted most in this world, Amara. And you killed him. You killed the best man either of us ever knew. And then you looked me in the eye every week and pretended to grieve with me. She crouched down, got face to face with him. That's not family, Marcus. That's betrayal. That's cowardice. That's evil hiding behind a smile. I'm sorry. No. Her voice went cold as winter. You're not sorry. You're caught. There's a difference. She stood up, nodded to Angelo. Take him. Angelo pulled Marcus to his feet, cuffed him, read him his rights in a voice that sounded like it came from 1,000 miles away. Marcus didn't resist, didn't fight, just let himself be led toward the door like a man walking to the gallows. But at the threshold he stopped, looked back at Zara one last time. I really did love you, kiddo. Zara met his eyes. My name is Zara, not kiddo. Zara Morrison, daughter of Cyrus Morrison, the man you murdered. Marcus flinched like she'd hit him. Then Angelo pushed him forward, out the door, into the night, into the justice he'd run from for 12 years. The office felt different after Marcus was gone. Bigger somehow. Emptier. Like a haunted house after the ghost finally leaves. Zara stood in the middle of the room, staring at the broken wire on the desk. Such a small thing. One tiny button. One conversation. and 12 years of lies came crashing down. Grandmother sank into Marcus's chair, the same chair he'd sat in minutes ago, confessing, the leather still warm from his body. "He really did it," she whispered. "All these years I defended him. When people whispered, when neighbors looked at us sideways, I told them Marcus would never hurt anyone, that he loved his brother too much." Her voice cracked. "I was so stupid." "You weren't stupid," Landon said quietly. "You were loyal. That's different. Loyalty to a murderer isn't loyalty. It's blindness." Zara walked over, took her grandmother's hand. "You didn't know." "I should have known. Should have seen the signs. The way he always had money when we were broke. The way he never wanted to talk about that night. The way he changed the subject every time someone mentioned Cyrus." She looked up at Zara with tears streaming down her face. "What kind of sister doesn't notice her brother killed her husband?" "The kind who's too busy surviving to investigate," Landon said. "Don't do this to yourself, Mrs. Morrison. Marcus is responsible for what he did, not you." Outside, police cars were arriving, red and blue lights painting the construction site in colors that looked like judgment. Kira came back in, tablet in hand. "We got everything. Full confession on audio. Dates, names, dollar amounts. The DA says it's more than enough for prosecution." "How long will he get?" Zara asked. 20 years minimum. Maybe more with the aggravating factors. The lies, the cover-up, the framing of an innocent man. Kira looked at Landon. "Speaking of which, the DA wants to meet with you tomorrow. Talk about clearing your record. Possibly compensation for wrongful accusation." Landon shook his head. "I don't want compensation. I want my name cleared. That's all." "You deserve more than that," Grandmother said. "We ruined your reputation, made you a pariah. You lost business deals, friends, respect. I lost nothing that mattered." Landon looked at Zara. "Because 12 years later, a little girl saved my life and gave me a chance to do the right thing. That's worth more than any business deal." A detective came to the door. Young, professional, holding a recording device. "Miss Morrison? I know this has been traumatic, but I need to get your statement while everything's fresh." Zara nodded, sat down, told the story again from the beginning. The fire escape, the alley, the throw that saved a life and started everything. It took 40 minutes. The detective asked the same questions 3 different ways, making sure, documenting, building a case that would put Marcus away for the rest of his functional life. When it was done, when Zara had signed her name on forms she didn't fully understand, the detective stood up. "You're a brave kid. You know that?" "I don't feel brave." "Brave people never do. That's how you know it's real." He left. More officers came and went, taking photos, collecting evidence, turning Marcus's office into a crime scene. By 9 p.m. they were done. Angelo drove them home in silence, the kind of silence that felt like grief and relief mixed together. When they pulled up outside their building, Grandmother didn't move. "I don't know how to go back in there," she said quietly. "Everything's different now. The apartment will feel different. The memories will feel different. Even the good ones are poisoned because he was in them." "Then we move," Landon said suddenly. Both Zara and Grandmother turned to look at him. "Move where?" Grandmother asked. "Anywhere you want. I have properties all over the city. Some empty, some renovated. Pick one, any one, rent-free for as long as you need." "We can't accept that." "Yes, you can." His voice was firm. "Your family paid the price for my mistakes, for my negligence. I hired Marcus. I created the situation that led to Cyrus's death. Let me do this." "Please." Grandmother opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Looked at Zara. "What do you think, baby?" Zara looked at the building, at the window 3 stories up where she'd thrown that ball. where everything had started. "I think," she said slowly, "Daddy would want us to let people help. He always said accepting kindness isn't weakness, it's grace." Grandmother's eyes filled with fresh tears. "He did say that, didn't he? All the time." She looked back at Landon, extended her hand. "Thank you, Mr. Cross, for everything. For clearing my husband's name. For exposing Marcus. For—" her voice broke. "For not giving up on the truth." Landon shook her hand. "Your daughter saved my life. This doesn't come close to repaying that debt." "My granddaughter," grandmother corrected gently. "Right. Your granddaughter." He smiled at Zara, who throws like a professional pitcher and has more courage than anyone I've ever met. By morning, the story was everywhere. Not just local news, national, international. Every major outlet running the same headline with slight variations. Hero girl exposes uncle as killer, wears wire to get confession. 10-year-old takes down murderer who killed her father 12 years ago. The girl who saved a billionaire, then saved justice. Zara's face was on every screen. The security footage from that first night in the alley played on loop. Then new footage, her walking into Marcus's office. The moment she emerged after the arrest, her face pale but determined. Grandmother turned off the TV at 7 a.m. You don't need to see this. But Zara had already seen it. On her phone. On social media. Zara Morrison was trending worldwide. Millions of people she'd never met were calling her a hero. Calling her brave. Calling her inspirational. It felt like drowning in praise she didn't deserve. "I just told the truth," Zara said quietly. "That's not heroic. That's just what you're supposed to do." "Most people don't," Landon said from the kitchen where he'd spent the night on their couch, too worried to leave them alone. "Most people stay silent. Protect family even when family doesn't deserve protection. You did something most adults couldn't do." Grandmother's phone rang. It had been ringing non-stop since 6 a.m., talk shows, podcasts, news programs, movie producers, book agents. Everyone wanted Zara's story. "How are you handling this?" Grandmother asked each caller. "A child just lost her uncle and learned her father was murdered. Show some respect." She hung up on another one. Vultures. All of them. At 8:30, there was a knock on the door. Everyone froze. After yesterday, every knock felt like a threat. Landon looked through the peephole. His expression changed. It's a lot of people, reporters, cameras. They're setting up in the hallway." "How did they get past building security?" Grandmother demanded. "There is no building security, not in a place like this." Another knock, louder. "Miss Morrison? Zara? Can we get a statement? Just 5 minutes?" "We're not answering," Grandmother said firmly. But the knocking continued. More voices joining, the hallway filling with people who wanted a piece of Zara's trauma. Zara walked to the window, looked down. 3 news vans on the street, maybe 20 people with cameras, neighbors coming out to watch, some recording on their phones. This was her life now. No privacy, no peace, just endless attention from strangers who thought they knew her story because they'd read a headline. "We need to leave," Landon said. "Right now. Before this gets worse." "Where would we go?" "I have a place, downtown, high-rise, security. No one gets past the lobby without clearance." He was already gathering their things. "Pack essentials. 5 minutes. We move fast. We can't just leave." "Yes, you can. Unless you want to spend the next month hiding in this apartment while reporters camp outside." Grandmother looked at Zara. "What do you want to do, baby?" Zara stared at the crowd below, at the cameras, at her life turning into a spectacle. "I want to go somewhere quiet, where no one knows my name." "Then that's what we'll do." They packed in 4 minutes. Clothes, documents, the shoebox of photos grandmother kept under her bed. Zara grabbed her baseball, the original one, the one that started everything. Landon made a call. 2 minutes later, Angelo pulled up in a black SUV with tinted windows. He came up the back stairs, the ones no one was watching. "Ready?" he asked. They left through the service entrance, down hallways that smelled like garbage and old cooking, past confused janitors and curious neighbors, out a basement door that opened into an alley 3 buildings over. The SUV was waiting, engine running. They got in. Doors locked, windows too dark to see through. As they pulled away, Zara looked back one last time, at the building where she'd lived her whole life, at the window where she'd sat that night, at the alley where everything changed. "You okay?" grandmother asked. "I saved a man's life," Zara said quietly, "and destroyed my family. I don't know if that makes me a hero or a villain." "It makes you human," Landon said from the front seat. "Humans make impossible choices. They live, with consequences. They keep moving forward even when forward feels impossible." They drove in silence after that, through streets Zara had known her whole life, past her school, past Mr. Chen's store, past the construction site where Marcus had confessed, past her childhood, toward something new, something uncertain, something that felt like freedom and loss mixed together. At a red light, Zara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You did the right thing. Your father would be proud." A friend. She showed it to grandmother. "Who do you think sent it? Does it matter?" Zara thought about that. "No, I guess it doesn't." The light turned green. Angelo drove forward, away from the cameras, away from the crowds, away from the life that had been hers until a week ago, toward whatever came next. The apartment Landon took them to wasn't an apartment, it was a penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city, kitchen bigger than their old living room, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with marble counters, furniture that looked like it belonged in magazines. Zara stood in the middle of the living room, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. "This is too much," grandmother said, turning in slow circles. "Mr. Cross, we can't—" "It's empty," Landon interrupted. "Has been for 6 months. I bought it as an investment and never did anything with it. You'd actually be doing me a favor. Empty properties attract problems. We can't afford—" "I'm not asking you to afford anything. I'm offering you a safe place while the media circus dies down. A month, 2 months, however long you need." Grandmother opened her mouth to protest again, but then she saw Zara's face, saw how her granddaughter was staring out the window at a city that suddenly looked different from up high, smaller, manageable. "1 month, grandmother finally said, "and then we figure out something permanent." "Deal." Angelo brought up their bags, set them in the bedrooms, did a security sweep, checked locks, windows, fire exits. "You're safe here," he said. "Building has 24-hour security, doorman who doesn't talk to press, cameras on every floor. Nobody gets to you unless you want them to." After he left, the apartment fell silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that amplified thoughts. Zara went to her room, a space bigger than their old living room, sat on a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud, stared at walls that were blank, empty, waiting to be filled with memories that didn't exist yet. Her phone buzzed again. More texts, more messages. People from school she barely talked to, suddenly acting like best friends. Teachers checking in. Distant relatives she'd never met saying they were proud. She turned the phone off, threw it on the nightstand, put her face in her hands. A soft knock on the door. "Baby? You okay?" "I don't know." Grandmother came in, sat on the bed beside her. They sat in silence for a while, just existing together in this strange new space. "Everything's different now," Zara finally said. "I know. Uncle Marcus is gone. Our apartment is gone. My name is everywhere. My face is everywhere. I can't even go to school without people staring. We'll figure it out. What if we can't? What if this is my life now? Being the girl who turned in her uncle? Being the girl whose father was murdered? Being famous for the worst reason? Grandmother pulled her close. Then we learned to live with it. Together. The same way we learned to live after your mother died. The same way we learned to live after your father died. We survive. We adapt. We keep going. I don't want to keep going. I want to go back. To before I threw that ball. To when things were simple. Things were never simple, baby. We were just surviving without knowing the truth. Now we know. And knowing hurts. But it's better than living in a lie. Zara wasn't sure that was true, but she didn't argue. That night, Landon ordered dinner from a restaurant Zara couldn't pronounce. Food arrived in containers that looked too fancy to throw away. They ate at a table that sat 8 people, even though only 3 of them were there. What happens now? Zara asked between bites of something that tasted like chicken, but wasn't quite chicken. Now? Landon set down his fork. Now we wait for the trial. Marcus will be arraigned next week. Formal charges, bail hearing. Though I doubt they'll grant him bail given the flight risk and severity of charges. And then the DA builds their case, uses the recording, the documents, everything we gathered. Could take 6 months, maybe a year before it goes to trial. A year? Grandmother's voice rose. We're supposed to wait a year for justice? That's how the system works. I'm sorry. Zara pushed food around her plate. What if he gets out? What if he makes bail and comes after us? He won't. Landon's voice was steel. I've hired private security. Round the clock. He comes within 100 yards of either of you, we'll know. That costs money. Money I have. Money I'm willing to spend. Your family paid the price for my negligence 12 years ago. This is me making sure history doesn't repeat. After dinner, Zara stood at the window again, looking down at the city lights, at people living their normal lives, going to work, coming home, not having their faces on the news, not having their family torn apart by a truth that had been buried for 12 years. Somewhere down there, Marcus was in a cell, probably thinking about what he'd lost, probably hating Zara for being the reason he got caught. She wondered if he understood yet, that she didn't betray him. He betrayed himself the moment he chose money over family. The moment he chose lies over truth. The moment he let his brother die in a fire he started. Behind her, grandmother and Landon talked in low voices, making plans, discussing lawyers, trials, the future. But Zara wasn't thinking about the future. She was thinking about her father, about the man she'd never really known, about how he'd died calling for his brother, trusting until the very end. I got him, Daddy, she whispered to the window, to the night, to wherever dead fathers go. I got him for you. And for the first time in a week, something in her chest loosened. Not peace, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. The courthouse felt like a cathedral built for judgment instead of prayer. High ceilings, cold marble, echoes that made every whisper sound like shouting, security guards with metal detectors, lawyers in expensive suits walking like they owned the building. Zara sat between grandmother and Landon on a wooden bench that had been worn smooth by decades of people waiting for justice. Waiting to see if the system would work, if truth would win, if monsters would finally pay. The courtroom doors opened at 9 a.m. Sharp. People filed in. Press in the back row. No cameras allowed, but notebooks ready. Prosecutors in the front. Defense attorneys looking grim, and then, from a side door, guards brought him in. Marcus. He looked smaller in an orange jumpsuit. Older. His hands were cuffed in front of him, ankles shackled. He shuffled when he walked instead of the confident stride Zara remembered. Their eyes met across the courtroom. For 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours, uncle and niece stared at each other. Marcus's expression was hard to read. Hurt, maybe, or angry, or just broken. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but Zara looked away first, couldn't bear to hold his gaze, couldn't stand the way he looked at her like she was the one who'd betrayed him. "All rise," the bailiff called out. Everyone stood. Judge Martinez entered, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen every kind of human ugliness. She sat. Everyone else sat, the machinery of justice grinding into motion. Case number 47 CR 29485. People versus Marcus Timothy Morrison. Charges of arson resulting in death, insurance fraud, obstruction of justice, and perjury. The prosecutor's voice was clinical, professional, like he was reading a grocery list instead of describing how a man killed his own brother. Marcus's lawyer stood, public defender, young, overworked, already looking defeated. "How does your client plead?" Marcus stood slowly, chains rattling. "Not guilty, Your Honor." The words hit Zara like a fist. Not guilty. After everything, after the confession, after the tears, after admitting what he'd done, not guilty. Grandmother's hand found Zara's, squeezed tight. "He has to plead not guilty," she whispered. "It's procedure. Doesn't mean anything." But it felt like it meant everything. The prosecutor stepped forward. "Your Honor, given the severity of the charges and the defendant's confession on record, the people request remand without bail. Mr. Morrison is a flight risk with demonstrated ability to evade justice for over a decade. He has financial resources through undisclosed accounts, and he has proven himself dangerous to witnesses, specifically his 10-year-old niece." Marcus's lawyer jumped up. "Objection. My client has no history of violence. He's a respected member of the community. Business owner. He has ties. He murdered his brother," the prosecutor cut in. "Then spent 12 years lying about it. That's not no history of violence. That's premeditation followed by an extensive cover-up." Judge Martinez held up a hand. Silence fell. She looked at Marcus over her reading glasses. Really looked at him. "Mr. Morrison, you understand these are serious charges?" "Yes, Your Honor." "You understand you're facing 25 years to life?" His voice broke. "Yes, Your Honor." "You have anything to say before I rule on bail?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I loved my brother. Everything I did—" "Save it for trial," the judge interrupted. "I'm not interested in your justifications. I'm interested in whether you're a danger to the community and a flight risk." She looked at the papers in front of her. "Given the evidence presented, recorded confession, financial irregularities, history of deception, I'm denying bail. Mr. Morrison, you'll remain in custody until trial." The gavel came down. Bang. Marcus's shoulders sagged. His lawyer whispered something, but Marcus wasn't listening. He was looking at Zara again, across the courtroom, across 12 years of lies. His mouth moved. No sound came out, but Zara could read his lips. "I'm sorry." She didn't respond, just watched as the guards took his arms, turned him around, led him toward the side door. He looked back once more before disappearing. Then he was gone. Grandmother let out a breath she'd been holding for what felt like hours. "It's over." "No," the prosecutor said, approaching their bench. "It's just beginning. Trial won't be for months. He'll try to make a deal, plead to lesser charges, get a reduced sentence." "Will you take it?" Landon asked. "Not without your input." The prosecutor looked at grandmother. "This is your husband we're talking about, your brother. You get a say in whether we accept a plea." Grandmother stood, looked the prosecutor dead in the eye. "No deals. No reduced sentences. No mercy. He showed none to my husband. He gets none from me." The prosecutor nodded. "Then we go to trial, full charges. I'll be in touch." He left. The courtroom emptied. Soon it was just the three of them sitting in silence. Did I do the right thing? Zara finally asked. Wearing that wire? Getting him arrested? Grandmother pulled her close. You did the only thing. The truth needed to come out. But he's going to prison for the rest of his life because of me. No, baby. Grandmother's voice was firm. He's going to prison for the rest of his life because of what he did. You just made sure he couldn't hide anymore. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Cameras ready, questions prepared. But Angelo had a back exit planned. They slipped out through the judge's chambers, a favor called in by Landon's lawyers. The SUV was waiting, engine running. As they drove away, Zara looked back at the courthouse, that building where her uncle had just pled not guilty to murdering her father, where justice was supposed to happen but felt more like revenge, where the truth had been spoken, but nobody felt better. When does it stop hurting? She asked quietly. Neither adult answered. Because they didn't know. The baseball field was empty when Zara arrived, 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Dew still on the grass, fog rolling across the diamond like ghosts of games past. The only sound was her footsteps on the gravel path and birds waking up somewhere in the trees beyond the outfield. She'd been coming here every morning for 3 weeks, ever since grandmother said she was ready, ever since the nightmares got bad enough that sleep felt more dangerous than exhaustion. Zara set down her bag, pulled out her ball, the original one, scuffed, stained, still perfect in her hand. She walked to the pitcher's mound, felt the familiar dirt under her feet, looked at home plate 60 feet away, and threw. The ball cut through the morning air, hit the backstop with a sound that echoed across the empty field. Strike. She threw again, and again, and again, muscle memory taking over, the rhythm of wind-up, release, follow-through, the only thing in her life that still made sense. You're up early. Zara spun around. Landon stood near the dugout, holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked different than he had 6 months ago. Less polished, more human. Jeans instead of suits. Tired eyes that matched hers. Couldn't sleep, Zara said. Me neither. He walked over, offered her one of the cups. It's hot chocolate. Figured you're too young for coffee. She took it, wrapped her hands around the warmth. What are you doing here? Same thing as you. Trying to make sense of things that don't make sense. They stood in silence for a while, watching the sun start to burn through the fog, turning the field from gray to gold. Trial starts Monday, Landon said quietly. Zara's stomach dropped. She'd been trying not to think about it, trying not to imagine sitting in that courtroom again, seeing Uncle Marcus, testifying, reliving everything. I know. You ready? No. Good. People who think they're ready for something like this usually aren't. He sat on the mound, gestured for her to sit beside him. She did. The dirt was cold and slightly damp, but she didn't care. I talked to the prosecutor yesterday, Landon continued. They want you on the stand. First witness. Your testimony sets the entire case. What if I mess up? You won't. What if I forget something? What if I... Her voice cracked. What if I see him and I can't do it? Landon was quiet for a moment. Then, 6 months ago, you walked into that construction office wearing a wire, confronted a killer, got a confession. You were terrified then too, but you did it anyway. That was different. How? I was angry then. Now I'm just tired. Tired is okay. Tired people still tell the truth. A jogger passed by on the path beyond the fence. Waved, kept running. Normal person living a normal life. Zara wondered what that felt like. Does it ever stop? She asked. The guilt? What do you have to feel guilty about? He was my uncle. I loved him. Part of me still does. And I'm the reason he's in jail. No. Landon's voice went firm. He's in jail because he killed your father. because he lied for 12 years, because he chose money over family. You didn't put him there. His choices did. But if I hadn't worn the wire, then he'd still be free, still lying, still pretending to be someone he wasn't. Would that be better? Zara didn't answer, because she didn't know. My grandmother hasn't smiled once since the arraignment, she said instead. Not a real smile. She goes through the motions. Cooks. Cleans. But it's like part of her died when we found out the truth. She lost her brother and her husband in the same moment. That's not something you recover from quickly. Will she ever recover? I don't know. But she has you. That counts for something. The sun was fully up now. The field transformed from shadowy to bright. Other people would start arriving soon. Little league teams, weekend warriors, people who came here to play, to forget their problems for a few hours. Zara stood up, brushed dirt off her pants. I should get back before grandmother wakes up. She worries when I'm gone. Zara. Landon stood too. Monday, when you're on that stand, remember something. You're not the villain in this story. You never were. Then why does it feel like I am? Because good people feel guilty when bad things happen, even when they're not responsible. It's called empathy. It's what separates you from people like Marcus. They walked back toward the parking lot together, the field behind them filling with morning light, with possibility, with the promise of another day survived. Mr. Cross, Zara said as they reached his car. Yeah? Thank you. For showing up. For being here. For everything. He smiled, sad but genuine. Your father saved my life before you did. I'm just returning the favor. What do you mean? I'll tell you someday, when you're ready to hear it. He drove her back to the penthouse. Neither spoke, but the silence felt different this time. Less heavy. More like understanding. When they pulled up, grandmother was on the balcony, coffee in hand, looking out at the city. She waved when she saw them. She's stronger than she looks, Landon said. So am I, Zara replied. I know. That night, Zara stood in front of her mirror, practicing. My name is Zara Morrison. I'm 10 years old. I witnessed my uncle confess to killing my father. The words felt heavy. Wrong, but true. She said them again, and again, until they stopped feeling like a betrayal and started feeling like justice. Monday was coming, and she would be ready. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, press in the back, sketch artists with their pads, people who'd followed the case for months, treating it like entertainment instead of the destruction of a family. Zara sat in the witness waiting room with grandmother and Landon. White walls, uncomfortable chairs. A clock that ticked so loud it felt like a countdown to execution. You don't have to do this, grandmother said for the 10th time. We can tell them you're not ready. They can use the recording. That's enough. It's not enough. Zara's voice was steadier than she felt. The jury needs to see me, needs to know this isn't just some recording. It's real. It happened to a real person. The prosecutor, Mr. Valdez, had explained it yesterday. Juries connect with faces, with emotion, with children who've been hurt. The recording was evidence, but Zara's testimony would be the heart of the case. The door opened. A bailiff looked in. Miss Morrison, we're ready for you. Zara stood. Her legs felt like water. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Grandmother grabbed her face, looked her dead in the eyes. You are Cyrus Morrison's daughter. You are brave. You are strong. You are exactly where you need to be. Landon squeezed her shoulder. Just tell the truth. That's all you have to do. Zara walked into the courtroom. Everything got quiet, all those faces turning to look at her, at the 10-year-old girl who'd taken down a killer, at the child who'd worn a wire and brought her own uncle to justice. She walked to the witness stand. The bailiff held out a Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, but it came out. She sat. The chair was too big. Her feet barely touched the floor. She felt like a child playing dress-up in adult problems. Mr. Valdez approached. Kind eyes. Gentle voice. They'd practiced this. Good morning, Zara. Thank you for being here today. Good morning. Can you tell the jury your full name and age? Zara Morrison. I'm 10 years old. I'll be 11 next month. And who is the defendant in this case to you? Zara looked at the defense table for the first time. Marcus sat there in a suit instead of orange. His lawyer had cleaned him up, made him look respectable. But his eyes looked dead. He's my uncle, my father's brother. Were you close? Yes. Her voice cracked. He was like a second father after my dad died. And how did your father die? In a fire, 12 years ago, in an apartment building. Did you know what caused that fire? I thought. Zara swallowed hard. I thought Mr. Cross did it. That's what my family believed, what everyone told me. When did you learn the truth? 6 months ago, the night I saved Mr. Cross in the alley. Mr. Valdez walked her through the whole story. The fire escape, the throw, the recognition. Landon showing up at their apartment with proof. Marcus's slip of the tongue, the wire, the confession. And when you confronted your uncle in his office, what did he tell you? This was it. The moment everything hinged on. Zara looked at the jury, 12 faces watching her, waiting. He told me he hired people to set the fire, that it was supposed to be contained, that my father wasn't supposed to be there. But he was. And my uncle, her voice broke completely. My uncle heard him screaming, heard him calling for help, and he didn't go in. He let him die. Someone in the gallery gasped. One of the jurors wiped their eyes. Did he express remorse? He said he was sorry, but Zara looked at Marcus now, really looked at him. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. Marcus's lawyer jumped up. Objection. Speculation. Sustained, Judge Martinez said. The jury will disregard the witness's interpretation of the defendant's state of mind. But the damage was done. The jury had heard it, and from the looks on their faces, they believed it. Mr. Valdez continued. Question after question, each one pulling another piece of truth into the light. The insurance money, the lies, the 12 years of deception. Finally, no further questions, Your Honor. Then came the part Zara had been dreading. Cross-examination. Marcus's lawyer stood. Young, aggressive, looking for any crack to exploit. Miss Morrison, you love your uncle, don't you? I did. Past tense. Interesting. So your feelings changed after he was arrested? My feelings changed after I learned he killed my father. Or after you were convinced he killed your father. There's a difference. Mr. Valdez stood. Objection. Argumentative. Sustained. But the lawyer kept pushing. Isn't it true that Mr. Cross offered your family money? A new apartment? Financial support? Yes. So you had financial incentive to support his version of events? Anger flashed through Zara, hot and bright. My uncle confessed, on tape, with his own words. I didn't make that up. But you wore a wire. You went there specifically to trap him. I went there to get the truth. Or to get what someone told you was the truth? Objection. Mr. Valdez was on his feet. Counsel is badgering the witness. Withdrawn. The lawyer stepped back, smiled slightly. No further questions. Zara was dismissed. She walked back to her seat on legs that barely held her. Grandmother pulled her close, held her while she shook. You did perfect, baby. Perfect. But Zara didn't feel perfect. She felt torn apart, exposed, like she'd been dissected in front of strangers. The trial continued. More witnesses, more evidence. The recording played for the jury. Marcus's voice filling the courtroom. His confession, his tears, his admission that he'd let his brother die. Zara watched the jurors' faces, watched them react, watched some of them cry, and she watched Marcus, sitting at that table, motionless, emotionless, like he'd already accepted his fate. Day 1 ended at 5 p.m. Judge Martinez dismissed them until tomorrow. Outside, media swarmed. Angelo got them to the SUV fast, but not before Zara heard the shouts. "Zara, how do you feel? Do you think your uncle will be convicted? Do you forgive him?" She didn't answer, just got in the car. Let the tinted windows shield her from the world. "One day down," Landon said. "You were incredible." But Zara didn't feel incredible. She felt empty, like she'd just testified at her own funeral. The trial lasted 8 days, 8 days of testimony, evidence, expert witnesses explaining fire patterns and accelerant residue and financial fraud. 8 days of Marcus sitting at that defense table, getting smaller and grayer with each passing hour. On day 5, his lawyer put him on the stand. Marcus told his story, how he'd loved his brother, how he'd only wanted to help, how the fire was an accident, how he'd lived with the guilt every single day. He cried. Real tears. The kind that made some jurors look sympathetic. But then Mr. Valdez cross-examined him. "Mr. Morrison, you testified that you loved your brother. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And yet you framed an innocent man for his death?" Marcus hesitated. I panicked. Made a terrible mistake. A mistake that lasted 12 years? I was scared. Scared of what? Justice? Consequences? Or losing $400,000? It wasn't about the money. Then why didn't you give it back? Why didn't you donate it? Use it to help the families displaced by the fire you caused? Silence. "Mr. Morrison, did you hear your brother calling for help the night of the fire?" Marcus's face crumbled. "Yes." "And what did you do?" I tried to go in, but the explosion before the explosion, when he first started calling." "What did you do?" More silence, longer this time. "I stood there," Marcus finally whispered. "I stood there, and I waited to see if the fire would stay contained." "You stood there while your brother burned." Objection. The defense lawyer jumped up. Inflammatory language. Sustained. Rephrase, Mr. Valdez. You stood there while your brother called for help, and you did nothing. I didn't know he was inside at first, but when you heard him calling your name, you knew, correct? Yes. And still you waited. Marcus put his face in his hands. Yes. The courtroom was silent except for someone crying in the gallery. Zara watched from her seat, watched her uncle fall apart, watched the truth destroy him piece by piece, and felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just emptiness. On day 8, both sides gave closing arguments. The defense painted Marcus as a man who made a tragic mistake, who'd lived with unbearable guilt, who deserved mercy. The prosecution painted him as a calculated killer, who'd murdered for money, who'd framed an innocent man, who'd lied to his family for 12 years. "This isn't a story about a mistake," Mr. Valdez told the jury. "This is a story about choices." Marcus Morrison chose money over family, chose lies over truth, chose to let his brother die rather than face consequences. Those aren't mistakes. That's murder. The jury deliberated for 11 hours. Zara spent those 11 hours in the waiting room. Grandmother paced. Landon made phone calls he didn't need to make. Angelo stood by the door like a statue. At 4:30 p.m., the bailiff came in. "We have a verdict." Zara's heart stopped. They filed back into the courtroom. The jury looked exhausted, serious. Several wouldn't look at Marcus. That was a good sign. Or a bad one. Zara couldn't tell anymore. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Martinez asked. The foreman stood. an older black man with kind eyes. "We have, Your Honor." "On the charge of arson resulting in death, how do you find?" "Guilty." Grandmother's hand found Zara's, squeezed so tight it hurt. "On the charge of insurance fraud?" "Guilty." "On the charge of obstruction of justice?" "Guilty." "On the charge of perjury?" "Guilty." Marcus dropped his head. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but there was nothing to say, no comfort to give. Judge Martinez's voice cut through the silence. "Mr. Morrison, you have been found guilty on all counts. Sentencing is scheduled for 3 weeks from today. Until then, you will remain in custody. Court is adjourned." The gavel came down. Final. Absolute. Guards moved forward to take Marcus away. He stood slowly, looked back one last time at Zara and grandmother. His mouth moved. "I'm sorry." But grandmother turned away, pulled Zara close, walked toward the exit without looking back. Outside, the media was waiting, but this time grandmother stopped, faced the cameras. "My brother killed my husband and spent 12 years lying about it. Today, justice was served. But it doesn't bring Cyrus back, doesn't undo the damage, doesn't heal what's broken." Her voice shook. "I hope Marcus spends every day of his sentence thinking about what he did, about the brother he killed, about the family he destroyed, about the little girl who had to grow up without a father because he chose money over blood." She took Zara's hand. "We're done talking now. We're done being your story. Leave us alone." They walked to the SUV, got in, drove away. Zara looked back one time, at the courthouse, at the place where her uncle had been found guilty, where justice had finally happened. "How do you feel, baby?" grandmother asked. Zara thought about it. Really thought. "Empty," she finally said, "like I should feel something more. Relief or happiness or something. But I just feel empty." "That's normal," Landon said from the front seat. "Closure doesn't feel like the movies. It's quiet. Sometimes it's just nothing." "When does it feel like something?" "I don't know. Maybe never. Maybe that's okay." They drove in silence back to the penthouse, back to the temporary home that felt more permanent with each passing day, back to a life that would never be what it was before but might someday be something new. That night Zara stood on the balcony, looking at the city, at millions of lives happening simultaneously, people laughing, fighting, loving, dying, all of it happening at once. Somewhere out there, her father was buried, in a cemetery she hadn't visited since she was 5. Maybe it was time to go back, to tell him what happened, to let him know his brother finally paid. "Daddy," she whispered to the wind. "I got him, just like I promised." The city lights twinkled. Indifferent. Beautiful. The world kept turning despite everything. Despite loss and lies and justice that came 12 years too late. And Zara Morrison, 10 years old, soon to be 11, stood on that balcony and decided something. She would not let this define her. Would not let Marcus's crimes become her identity. Would not be the girl who turned in her uncle for the rest of her life. She would be something more, something her father would be proud of, something worth fighting for. Behind her, grandmother came out, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "Ready to come inside?" "In a minute." "Don't stay out too long. It's cold." "I won't." Grandmother went back in, left Zara alone with her thoughts and the city and the promise of tomorrow. 3 weeks until sentencing. Then it would really be over. Then they could finally start healing. If healing was even possible after everything they'd lost. Sentencing day arrived like an ending no one wanted, but everyone needed. Marcus got 25 years to life. No parole eligibility for 15 years. By then, he'd be 67. An old man who'd spent the best years of his life behind bars. Zara wasn't there to see it. Neither was grandmother. They'd said everything they needed to say. watched everything they needed to watch. The rest was just paperwork. Instead, they were somewhere else. The cemetery where Cyrus Morrison was buried. Zara had never been back. Not since the funeral when she was 3 years old and didn't understand why everyone was crying, why they were putting Daddy in a box, why he wouldn't wake up. Now she understood everything. The grave was simple, a flat stone marker with his name, birth date, death date, and one line underneath. Beloved husband, father, brother, fighter for justice. That last part made Zara's throat tight. Fighter for justice. He'd died fighting. And 12 years later, his daughter had finished the fight. Grandmother knelt down, touched the stone like it might be warm, like some part of him might still be there. "I'm sorry, Cyrus," she whispered. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Sorry I let Marcus near our daughter. Sorry I believed his lies." "He was good at lying," Zara said quietly. "That's not your fault. I should have known, should have felt it, should have—" "Grandma," Zara knelt beside her. "Daddy wouldn't want you carrying that guilt. He'd want you to be free." Grandmother looked at her granddaughter. This 10-year-old who'd somehow become wise beyond her years, who'd been forced to grow up too fast, to see too much, to carry burdens no child should carry. "When did you get so smart?" "I had good teachers." They sat in silence for a while, just existing beside the man they'd both loved, the man who'd died because his brother chose wrong. "I'm going back to school next week," Zara said eventually. "Real school. Not homeschool. Mr. Cross helped Grandma enroll me in a private school, one with security, where reporters can't get in." She pulled out her baseball from her jacket pocket. The original one. The one that had saved a life and started everything. "I'm trying out for the softball team. Coach says I have the best arm he's seen in 20 years. She smiled slightly. "Guess all that practice paid off." She set the ball on the grave, right next to the flowers grandmother had brought. "I'm not going to be angry anymore, Daddy. I'm going to be like you, a fighter, but not for revenge, for something better." "What's better than revenge?" Grandmother asked. "Truth, justice, making sure people like Uncle Marcus can't hide in plain sight." Landon had offered to pay for college, any school she wanted, any degree. But Zara already knew what she wanted to be, a lawyer, like the ones who'd prosecuted Marcus, like the ones who'd fought for justice when no one else would. She was going to be someone who made sure the truth came out, who protected kids like her, who made sure monsters didn't get to pretend to be heroes. "Your father would be so proud," Grandmother said, reading her mind. "You think?" "I know." She stood up slowly, joints aching. "Come on, baby. We have one more stop to make." They drove to the construction site, the place where everything had changed 6 months ago, where Marcus had confessed, where Zara had worn a wire and become something more than just a victim. The site was empty now, condemned. Yellow tape everywhere. A sign announcing it would be demolished next month. But someone was already there. Landon Cross stood in the parking lot, looking at the office where it had all happened. He heard them approach, turned, smiled that sad smile he'd perfected over 6 months. "Thought I'd find you here," he said. "Thought you'd be at the sentencing," Grandmother replied. "Already know how it ended. 25 years. Angelo texted me." Good. They stood together. 3 people connected by one night, one alley, one impossible choice that had changed everything. "I'm selling my company," Landon said suddenly. "All of it. The development business, the real estate holdings, everything." "Why?" Zara asked. "Because I realized something. Your father died because I created a system that valued profit over people. That encouraged men like Marcus to make terrible choices. I can't undo that, but I can stop contributing to it." "What will you do instead?" Start a foundation. The Cyrus Morrison Justice Fund. For families who can't afford lawyers, who are being pushed out of their homes, who need someone to fight for them the way your father fought. Grandmother's eyes filled with tears. You'd do that? It's the least I can do. Your husband saved my life before Zara did. He stood up to me when I was too arrogant to listen. If I'd listened to him 12 years ago, none of this would have happened. You can't blame yourself. I can, and I will. But I can also do better going forward. He looked at Zara. I was thinking. The foundation needs a board. People who understand what it's like to lose everything to corruption. People who won't compromise. People who know the cost of silence. He paused. When you're old enough, I'd like you to join. If you want. Zara looked at the construction office, at the place where she'd confronted evil and won, where she'd learned that even children could fight monsters. That truth was stronger than lies, that one brave choice could change everything. I want, she said. As the sun set behind the condemned building, casting long shadows across cracked pavement, the three of them stood together. A grandmother who'd lost everything and found strength. A billionaire who'd lost his way and found purpose. And a 10-year-old girl who'd lost her innocence but found her voice. What do we do now? Grandmother asked. Now? Landon smiled. Now we rebuild. Not this building, but something better. Something that would make Cyrus proud. Zara picked up a piece of broken concrete, wound up like she was on the pitcher's mound, and threw it as hard as she could at the office wall. It shattered glass, left a crack, made a sound that echoed across the empty lot. That's for my father, she said. Then she picked up another piece, threw again. That's for everyone Marcus hurt. Another throw. That's for the 12 years we lost. Another. And that's for the future, the one we're going to build. When she ran out of concrete to throw, she stood there breathing hard, tears streaming down her face, feeling something crack open inside her chest. Not closure. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. Grandmother pulled her close. Landon put a hand on her shoulder, and together they watched the sun disappear behind the building that represented everything that had gone wrong. Tomorrow it would be demolished, turned to rubble, made into nothing, and from that nothing, something new would grow, something better, something worth fighting for. 6 months later, Zara stood at the pitcher's mound, bottom of the 9th, bases loaded, 2 outs, championship game. The batter stepped up, confident, cocky, thought he had this, but he didn't know who Zara Morrison was, didn't know what she'd survived, didn't know that throwing a baseball under pressure was the easiest thing she'd done all year. She wound up, released, strike 3, game over. Her team lifted her on their shoulders. Grandmother screamed from the stands. Landon cheered beside her. Angelo recorded everything on his phone. And somewhere, in a cemetery across town, a father's grave stood quiet. But if stones could smile, his would be beaming, because his daughter had learned the most important lesson. One throw could change everything, but what you did after the throw, that's what defined you. And Zara Morrison was just getting started. The end. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Share it with someone who needs to remember they're stronger than they think. Drop a comment telling me about a time you found courage when you needed it most. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we bring you stories like this every week. Real stories about real people doing extraordinary things. Remember, you don't need permission to make a difference. You don't need wealth or connections or power. You just need to be willing to throw. One throw can change everything. Now go be brave. I'll see you in the next story.